Hello, this is Jesse West, and I'm going to go through and give you a case study of Internet use violations, threats over the World Wide Web for ISLLC Standard 5. Problem identification and analysis. What do I know? I know that Ms. Walker is a second-year teacher at Roosevelt High School. She teaches specialized science classes. I also know that there are parent and student complaints against Ms. Walker. Her stringent expectations and workload are leading to high stress levels in her students. Dr. Forbes has discussed techniques to help reduce student stress and increase positive interactions, but these have not been successfully implemented yet. There is also the case of the email and website. There's an email that was sent from an unidentified source about a derogatory website. The website had negative information on it against Ms. Walker, but also had a final statement: who wants Ms. Walker to disappear? Finally, Ms. Walker identified a possible suspect, Randy Franks. What do I need to know? I need to know who sent the email, who created the website, what is the district policy on harassment, has there been any talk or chatter from the community or student body related to the website, is there any past evidence of pranks that could be tied to this incident? What is the problem? The problem is Ms. Walker has been threatened publicly on the World Wide Web. This appears to most likely be the work of a student or possibly a group of students. There's also a negative perception of Ms. Walker that has given way to inappropriate behavior. A proposed plan of action. First, we'll need to speak with the district technologist to see if it can be determined who the email was sent from, along with if it can be determined who created the website. Second, we'll need to review all district policies that could apply concerning harassment and acceptable use policies if it is determined that school resources were used to create the website. It will also be necessary to determine what can be done, if anything, if the website was created off school grounds. Third, we'll need to bring Randy Frank's known friends in one by one to determine if any of them have any information or knowledge concerning the website. This will be followed by a meeting with Randy Franks. An explanation will be given to him to inform of the severity of the situation. It will be explained that because of his behaviors and snide comments made in class, it has caused Ms. Walker to believe that he is the author of the website. Fourth, a meeting with Ms. Walker will be necessary to explain what is being done to determine who is responsible. It will also be necessary to explain that although she believes Randy Franks is responsible, unless hard evidence is presented, sharing her accusations publicly would be considered malice against this student. Finally, it will be necessary to revisit with Ms. Walker the strategies for helping students reduce their stress along with building positive relationships with students. This will need to be a more structured approach than before and will require regular meetings and observations. Not only is Ms. Walker's safety a chief concern, but so is the mental and emotional state of her students. In order to resolve the issue, we must promote the success of all students, and it is necessary to provide a safe learning environment where there are no obstructions, or at least as few as possible, to the learning process. Having a teacher who fears for her safety would not allow for a safe environment. If a student is identified as the author of the website, there will need to be a lengthy conversation to understand the premises of the website and what he or she planned to accomplish. There will need to be a consequence dealt not for the posting of the website, but for the disruption to the educational environment and the perceived threat between a student and teacher. The consequence should result in a period of suspension according to the school discipline policy. The severity of the suspension will be determined by a student's discipline history. Examples of either long-term or short-term based on what they have done in the past, if anything. Also, Ms. Walker will need to understand that she will have to make adjustments to her teaching that maintains her rigor but keeps mind of her students' emotional and mental states by adopting and implementing the strategies given by Dr. Forbes. Debriefing the problem. What was I thinking? Why did Ms. Walker take the statement disappear in such a drastic way? I really think that she overreacted in this situation. Disappear is very broad. It could simply mean maybe they want her to leave. We don't know. Why wouldn't Ms. Walker be able to recognize the high levels of stress she was creating her students? If there are complaints being made from parents and students to the administration, surely she's been made aware of this. She should understand that she is responsible for her students. Why would a student post such harsh and severe materials publicly online? The World Wide Web is a form of information that you can post anything on, but nothing ever disappears. Just because you delete something on the internet does not mean it's gone. So students need to understand that putting something like this on the internet can reflect on them in the future, not just for what's going on now, but what they want to do in the future as to what they have as a digital footprint. What was I feeling? First of all, I felt sorry for Miss Walker. No person ever deserves to be treated in such a way, whether a teacher, student, or otherwise. Secondly, I was disappointed in Dr. Forbes. I would have thought he would have done more to help a new teacher implement better strategies to improve instruction that would decrease stress on his students. Specifically, these are supposed to be the highest level of students in his school who are going to be the ultimate representation of what he's accomplishing as a principal there. Finally, I was concerned for the student. Whomever created the website must have some mental concerns to post comments that could have serious repercussions. It's not just as simple as going out and just putting things what you want to say or do. There are consequences to your actions. What was I valuing? I most valued the safety of the teacher and students. As an educational leader, we are first and foremost responsible for the safety of our students, teachers, and staff. I held dearly to the concept of relationships. A student must know how much you care before they care how much you know. Relationships should always come before rigor. And finally, I valued the commitment of Miss Walker's rigor in the classroom. Although it might be misguided, she has kept her standards high. What issues are still unresolved or opening to further investigation? We still don't know who sent the email or created the web page. We may never know. This is something we may have to deal with. Miss Walker has not successfully implemented strategies to reduce stress and create positive relationships. This is her second year of teaching. Things should be put in place to make sure that she is doing what she needs to do so that these students are coming to her classroom ready to learn, not fearful of their failure. And finally, we don't know if this was a prank or a serious threat. Disappear is still an open-ended comment posted on the website. We don't know what the author's intentions was. In reflection of Standard 5, I demonstrated a sense of integrity and ethical behavior by providing a logical approach to the situation without jumping to conclusions as to who was responsible for the website. Yes, we may have identified Randy Franks, but that doesn't mean I went through and said that, Randy, you are guilty and we're going to pursue you until we have what we need. No, we went through and have the information. We have, and we have to work with what we have. Although Ms. Walker identified Randy Franks, I chose to interview rather than interrogate him and his friends to determine if they had any information about the website. It's important not to make rash accusations without first having hard evidence present. They may not be the ones that are responsible, but maybe they do know who is, and by just accusing them outright would make them defensive, and we will be able to gain the information we need to be able to solve this problem. I acted with fairness by choosing to interview the students rather than make hasty accusations or threats of discipline to coax them into giving more information or a possible confession. It's always good to respect your students so they respect you. We must set an example for them by doing so. Due to Randy Frank's prior behavior in class, it was fair to let him know that his behaviors have led Miss Walker to believe him a suspect. He needs to understand that there are consequences for his actions in class, and that could be a negative perception that is being viewed by other teachers against him. This is a very important thing to learn early on in life. Finally, I demonstrated a personal and professional code of ethics by revisiting the issue of the high stress and poor relationships in Miss Walker's classroom. Simply offering some strategies for improving Miss Walker's instruction is not enough. With the accountability of observations and post-observation meetings, feedback can be used to help Miss Walker understand why her students are so stressed and what can be done to improve relationships in her class without diminishing the rigor of her curriculum. This concludes my case study. Thank you for listening.